A24 brings another religious horror movie to the table starring Hugh Grant. Could this one be worth your time? Welcome Cinema, where we focus on a film. I'm Josh, this is Simply Cinema. Let me know down in the comments below, have you seen the Heretic? Is it good? Is it bad? Or somewhere right in the middle? Make sure to like this video if you enjoy it, subscribe if you haven't already to join the film culture community where we talk about a lot of cinema as a whole. And getting right into synopsis. And two young Mormon missionaries go about and knock on the wrong door, leading them into Mystery's house. They find themselves in a game of cat and mouse in this religious suspense thriller. And taking it right into the positives overall, right first like to talk about the cast. First off, Hugh Grant, just so great in his role. Everything you know and love about him, his charisma, his charm in his past casting career, and taking it into the casting here makes the film just that much more creepier, more disturbing. It just stands out as one of his best roles that I've seen personally. Just being able to give off that charm, but also knowing that it's meant to be this suspense, this creepy guy that's all building up to the drama that's going about, this heresy that's going about with the things that could go about wrong and awry within these two missionary girls that are just trying to figure out where they're headed, and having knocked on the wrong door to get to him just brings out something that's very different and something that I would not expect, which leads me to talk about Sophie Flasher and Chloe East, how we get their performances as well, just dominating just as well. I haven't been familiar with their work, what they've done in the past, but they just stand out. You see the fear within them, and you see how they slowly uncover pieces of the mystery that are all going about throughout the film, to which it has that very element of A24. It's suspenseful. It isn't too wacky with some of its editing. If you're turned off by the stylistic vibe of A24, this one won't throw you off guard. Yeah, it still has a great sense of its cinematography, balancing in on a great story that really hones in on its craft, really balances in the writing. Could be creepy just for the state of how real this may be. I'm not Mormon, I'm not too familiar with the culture, how that all works out myself, but even as a Christian, knowing how they craft the lines of the ideas of what this guy is challenging these girls for is just so dominating in the present. It's something that shows how you have to be really embedded with the word in order to preach what you believe in. But from the very get-go, you already see that there's some element where they're not fully into their faith. One sort of starting to try and get someone baptized, and the other, you sort of see this element of disbelief just with this hesitance at certain moments of what you're getting into. And so just how they're stepping into this man's home, even being able to not be knowledgeable about maybe challenging him on his beliefs, certain things that are going about along the way, but uncovering certain truths about his past, things that he has dissected of religion, all the different types, everything that's going about, the way they spread out the examples that he's really, like, in one sense, preaching to the idea of what's all building up to, goes about building his own faith that becomes a compelling piece of the puzzle, even though I'm not necessarily embedded into what he is all preaching for. Being able to separate my faith and looking at it as a film, still knowing that it can be realistic to some people out there, to people that do create their own religion of sorts. It is quite believable for the nature of at least how they set it up. Even if there's not the actual people out there that go along with this, it goes about this cat and mouse game that definitely does have the suspense, has some horror elements that isn't heavy hidden, and if you're not a horror fan, this is one of the lighter ones for the note of what you're getting into. Yes, there can be scares, but it's not heavy-ended with the frightening scares or things that are going about. It's more so the suspense of being trapped in this one man's house, figuring out how to get out and cracking the code of what his religion is all about. So just the way they built the pieces of the puzzle last few moments together, and this comes from the director of 65 from last year, which had its own elements of cinematography, certain things that stood out with its story, but it also felt a lot more basic, and I haven't followed as much of their work since then. But from that, what we get out of this one, it feels like there's so much more richness to what you're getting out of the story, the characters, because it's more balanced and honed in on these three characters. And well, yes, you get a few characters in that other one, 65. This one feels like it works a lot more effectively because they're all working in the present time. There's certain surprises, certain cuts of action that go about along the way. It's a slow build-up that naturally gains its time and is deserving of the nature of what it is all building up to because of the lighting, how it balances in the story, the dialogue, and how that all works in with the characters as a whole. That makes it just that much more suspenseful and a thriller as a whole. So let's go into the mixed elements. If you are encountering a crisis in your faith, if you're doubting, this is not a film that I would recommend to any of you, like whether you're Mormon, Christian, or whatever. They could bring up a lot of challenging ideas that you have to be firm in your faith, knowing what you believe in, because this could be a thing that sways you in one sort of direction when it really is sort of a thing that's made up, maybe probably not for the intentions of persuading you to change your religion or lose your faith. So just putting that out there, if you're just doubting in your faith, then I would not push you to go see this film. It's definitely one that could be for non-religious or strong religious as I am. And so just the way they go about all those lines of things, it does create a compelling story by the nature of this thing. There are certain things where this one character shows up. I feel they could do a lot more with him because he's related as the church chaplain to those girls, trying to check out on them and trying to find them. He sort of serves his purpose and brings a little bit of suspense of what's all going to happen. Is he going to find out about what's going on with this one guy? Is he going to be able to free girls? But at the same time, it wasn't totally unpredictable in the sense that he's not going to be the saving grace for these girls. There's going to be more time. There's going to be certain things that come about. And so you don't get as much from the church chaplain that could serve a greater purpose or something bigger to the nature of what comes out of his character. It's almost thrown in there every few seconds, and just the way it goes about just doesn't fully give an impact to his character or an impact as strongly to the moment outside of the nature of what all that brings into the element of what could be the possibility for the hope for the girls that are coming about with that. And so just the nature that goes about that can become interesting to some extent. But taking it right into the negatives, I feel like there's something that could have been better with the script, with the story, that Hugh Grant's character as the one that's trapping them, as the one that's building his own religion, while I like the principles, how they set up his character, how they deliver his lines, and making them creepy along the way with Hugh Grant's amazing performance, it feels like there's something that could be a little bit more embedded within his role, something that feels he's more knowledgeable about scripture, about the Mormon Bible, about other things that come about the way, because of the nature of, while there could be some things I'm just not culturally aware of, not being a Mormon myself, there's some things about the way they set up his character that feels like there's not as much false facts or real facts that come about along the way with what he's trying to persuade them with, the setup and where things are coming about from. And so just a natural dialogue that, while it can feel poetic, also can feel false or not necessarily a character that has spent years of time questioning, trying to figure out the true religion, and ultimately coming up with what you end up finding out about his character by the end of the film. Doesn't fully feel like the natural setup that doesn't all the way go about with the ideas that it's building up with his character, the premise of his character as a person, that once they get to the reveal, I sort of wasn't as impressed by the nature of what they do with that aspect at the end of the day. But that's just my personal thoughts on Heretic, which I just really enjoyed thoroughly throughout. And I have to rate a simply 8.5 out of 10. Let me know all your thoughts on the Heretic. Is it good? Is it bad? Or somewhere right in the middle? Make sure to like this video if you enjoy it. Subscribe if you haven't already to join in film culture community where we talk about the love of cinema as a whole. So that's just all, and make sure to do yourself a favor and go watch a movie.